Hello everyone, welcome back to another video learning Windows PowerShell in our channel Telugulo Telusko. In this video we are going to continue our topic from the previous video, which is understanding the commandlet syntax within Windows PowerShell. But there are some key elements that need to be discovered in this video to make and set a much broader context in terms of understanding the syntax itself. So let's go ahead and see what we have to discuss in this particular video. So in this video we're going to discuss about mandatory parameters, optional parameters, positional, and then named parameters. So I'm going to take one step at a time to explain all of these concepts which are part of the PowerShell syntax style. So let's go ahead and dig deep into what these mandatory, optional, or positional and named parameters are all about. So let's understand these terms in a general terminology. What does a mandatory mean? A mandatory means it is a compulsory for you to use, and an optional means either you can use it or you can leave it. It's at your discretion. So the same applies to Windows PowerShell syntax as well. When a mandatory parameter is specified, you need to specify the parameter and its value to execute the commandlet. So in a particular syntax style, in a particular parameter set, for example, if a parameter is specified as mandatory, you definitely need to use that parameter and its value to execute that command, and only then you will get the output back onto the console. When a mandatory parameter is missing from the command, Windows PowerShell will automatically prompt you to give you the value for that particular parameter. So you cannot execute a commandlet when there is a mandatory parameter without specifying it. So that's the whole deal of this particular mandatory parameters. And at the same time, an optional parameter can be used with the commandlet to get the required output. These parameters are completely optional, which means either you can use it or you may not. It's at your own discretion. So now we understand that in a particular parameter set there will be optional and there will be mandatory parameter sets. Now how do we identify an optional and a mandatory parameter is a big deal. So let's go ahead and see what we have in the next slide. So in this slide we have a syntax style for a commandlet called get event log, right? There are two parameter sets. This is the first parameter set, this is the second parameter set. Now let's go ahead and understand what are the optional and mandatory parameters are all about. So this is a commandlet, we know, because it starts with the verb and noun, and also this is a commandlet which starts with verb and noun, so that's fine. But always remember, parameter starts with a dash. Parameter starts with a dash, right? So all these are parameters. Dash computer name, dash hash string, dash log name. So all these are parameters. Now we need to understand what is an optional parameter, what is a mandatory parameter. So when a parameter and its value is specified in a square bracket, right? This is the parameter and this is its value. So when a parameter and its value is specified in a square bracket together, that particular parameter is an optional parameter. Optional parameter. So as you can see, dash after is a parameter and its value, both are together in a square bracket, so this is an optional parameter. This is an optional. Again, the parameter is completely in the square bracket, which means this is also optional. Here you see the parameter and its value in square brackets. Here, as you can see, this is optional. So all these things are optional, but if you take a look right here on the very beginning, dash log name is a parameter and its value is string. They are not together in a square bracket. They are not together in a square bracket. So which means if I want to use get event log, dash log name is mandatory. Dash log name is mandatory. I know that the parameter is in the square bracket but not its value. So I'll let you know what This square bracket means when only the parameter is within the square bracket but not the value, so which has a different meaning altogether. We can talk about in the next slides about the topic, but you can see that the parameter and the value is not within the square bracket, so this is not an optional, this is an mandatory. So for a parameter to be optional, both the parameter and the value should be in square bracket, only then that is treated as an optional parameter. That is an optional parameter. So if you take a look here, the computer name is optional because dash computer name is a parameter and its value, it accepts a string. Both are together in square brackets, which means it is an optional parameter, So let's go ahead and then understand something called as named parameters, and we will be talking about the rest of the part in the demo section. So let's go ahead and jump in, understand positional versus named. So all commandlet parameters are either named or positional. So when I say named, what it means is I need to specify the name of the parameter. For example, dash name bits, right? Dash computer name is DC1, for example. So when I'm specifying the complete parameter name, right, complete parameter name dash log name, for example, equals to system event logs. So for example, in this example, dash log name, I'm specifying the complete parameter name, so this is called as a named parameter. When I specify the complete parameter name, it is called as named parameter. So all commandlets parameters are either named or positional. So we understand what is a named parameter is, which means I am specifying the complete parameter name, so that is a named parameter. Now understand what's a positional parameter is all about. So a named parameter requires that you type the parameter name and argument when calling the commandlet. Okay, that's understandable. A positional parameter requires only that the argument is in relative order, which means when a parameter is specified to be positional, what you can do is you don't need to specify the parameter name. Instead, you can put the value in that place. PowerShell will automatically take that value and feed it to the parameter. So we will see a demo how that actually works. The system then maps the first unnamed argument to the first positional parameter, and the system then maps the second argument to the second positional parameters, and so on. So let's go ahead and clear this confusion and understand what a named parameter and a positional parameter is. So let's start with the mandatory and optional first. So get help get event log hyphen full. So when I type this, I get the help for the event log. So when I scroll back to the complete top, I see the parameter sets here. I have two parameter sets as we discussed before. Here I said dash log name is mandatory and rest all are optional. So what it means is if I want to run get event log, I definitely need to specify a log name. So let's go ahead and see if that is true. When I run get dash event log and hit enter, as you can see, PowerShell is not executing anything. Instead, it is saying, hey, log name is mandatory, just provide a value for log name. Okay, so I can go ahead and provide a log name system. So then it gets me all the system event logs on my computer, right? So that is an mandatory parameter. And then we also talked about optional parameter. If you see the full help again, you can always scroll back to the complete top of this particular help file to find the syntax. So instance ID is optional. So the command executed though I did not specify in instance ID, right? And then after dash after is optional, dash base object, everything else is optional in this particular syntax style. apart from the log name. So when I want to use get event log, for example, dash log name is a mandatory parameter. Let's go ahead and see one more example with get service, for example. So when I use get help get service full, I get the complete help file for the get service. So if you take a look here, so dash name in this context is an optional parameter because the parameter and its value are in square brackets. Dash computer name is optional. As you can see, both parameter and its value are in square brackets here. And then dependent service is optional, exclude string is optional, include string is optional, required service is optional. So first parameter set, everything is optional. Let's go to the second parameter set right here. Dash computer name is optional, dash dependent service is optional, exclude, include, required services. As you can see, dash display name is not optional. Dash display name is not optional because the parameter and its value are not in square bracket. And if you can see dash common parameters, you can ignore the common parameters for now. And then the third parameter set is get service. Computer name is optional, dependent service is optional, this is optional, include is optional, input object is optional, required service is optional, common parameter is optional. So everything is optional in the third parameter set. So in the first parameter set I don't have anything mandatory, but in the second parameter set I have dash display name. So if I that what that means is, if I want to use get service using the first parameter set, I don't need to specify any parameter, I simply can run get service. But if I want to use the second parameter set, I want to use get service, I need to specify dash display name and I need to give a display name value. And again, if I want to run the third parameter set, I don't need to specify any of the parameters, I can simply run get service and then the command it executes and gives me the output. So by default, when you run such commandlets, when you run like commandlets like get service, what happens is by default they stick to the first parameter set. By default they stick to the first parameter set. That means if you are not providing any parameter and just executing get service, it will come and stick to the first parameter set by default. So the first parameter set does not have any mandatory parameters. So when I execute just get service, it's going to get me all the services on my list, all my services. As you can see, I did not specify any parameter right there. So this is the default behavior. Again, if you take a look at the event log full help, if you see the first parameter set itself has a mandatory parameter, right? Here is the mandatory parameter. So when I doesn't specify any parameter, if I just run get event log, it comes and stick to the first parameter set, and the first parameter set has a log name parameter which is mandatory. So obviously I need to go ahead and provide the log name to get the information. So that's how the mandatory and optional parameters works. Now let's understand positional and named. So if you see here the help file of get event log, the dash log name is actually in square brackets, right? But the value is not. So when the value is not, I know that it is a mandatory parameter. But what does this square brackets mean when only the parameter itself is in square brackets, right? So here the parameter and its value is in square brackets, so we know that it is an optional parameter. But what is the special meaning this particular parameter has when only the parameter is in a square bracket? Which means only the parameter name is optional. But the value is not. The value is mandatory when I specify it in the first position. So if you understand the positions right here, this log name is in position number 1, instance ID is in position number 2, and this is position number 3, this is position number 4, and so on. So every parameter is placed in a certain set of position. This is the first position, this is the second position, third position, and fourth position, the placement, right? So when I specify the right value in the first position, so what does an event log dash log name takes? It may take application as an input, right? We have application log. It can take system as an input because it has system logs. It can take security as an input because it has security logs, and so on, right? So when I specify these values at this position, I don't need to specify dash log name. So let's understand what it means. So I can run get event log dash log name security. Okay, let's go with system. I don't have registry access. I know why, because I did not run PowerShell as administrator here. So if I go ahead and type dash log name system, you can see that I get the input. I get the output on my console, which is all the system event logs. So I specified dash log name as a parameter, and then I gave the value. But let's see what happens if I don't specify dash log name. I still get the same output, because dash log name is parameter is optional but not the value. When I specify the right value in the first position, I will obviously get the results. I don't need to specify the dash log name. So when I used dash log name, when I specify the dash log name right here in this example, and when I did not specify the log name and just told get event log system, technically both are same. Technically there is no difference in the output that I got, but the point is when I specify dash log name, I am specifying the complete name of the parameter, so it is called as named parameter. But when I just specify the value that fits in there and without specifying the parameter here, this is called positional. So this is the named parameter because I specified the name, and I know that log name is positional, so I just provided the value for log name right here. PowerShell automatically parsed that information. System is a value that I need to feed to log name. PowerShell understands that automatically and actually executes this command with that assumption that system is the value provided to log name and gets the output. So what happens if I provide a value that doesn't fit in that position? I know there is no event log that says hello, so when I just gave some information right there, see the event log hello on computer does not exist. So you need to specify a value that actually fits right there into the dash log name parameter. Only then you don't need to specify the log name parameter, and it is an optional. But my particular request is don't stick to this positional parameters as long as you are not comfortable. Always go ahead with the complete parameter name, especially when you're writing scripts, because when you're using positional parameters in scripts, it doesn't make any sense for people who are reading or people who doesn't know PowerShell what exactly you are meant to do in that script. So it is always a good idea to use complete named parameters, dash log name system, and then dash newest 5. So this is how your script should always look like. You need to specify the complete parameter name to make it visibly comfortable for people who are reading your code. And then where do I find the positions of how do I find the position of a particular syntax style? For example, let's go ahead and type get event log. Again, I need to go back to the help file, to find anything related to the documentation full. So if I go ahead and read the parameters, you can see dash log name is position number 1, right? And is there anything in position number 2? Yes, instance ID is in position number 2. So what I can tell is system, let me just get the log name system for example, and then I need to grab some instance ID, for example 5774. Okay, now what I can do is, as instance ID is in position number 2, I know that system log name is in position number 1, so system goes into position number 1 and instance ID goes into position number 2. When I hit enter, I get the output, right? Yeah, so now if you see when I placed the right values in right positions, I did not specify dash log name or dash instance ID. This is technically equivalent to this. So just let me know what is exactly comfortable for you to read. Get event log system 5774 or get event log dash log name system dash instance ID is 5774. So which one you feel you are comfortable dealing with when you start learning PowerShell? Obviously this should be the right approach that you should be taking as a learner, because it is easy for you to read and it also makes sense for the other people who are looking at your code. But I cannot swap these values, which means I cannot put instance ID 5774 in position number 1 and then I cannot put system in position number 2, which is incorrect. As you can see, PowerShell is clearly parsing 5774 and the system value to instance ID, because whatever you place in this position number 2 goes to instance ID, whatever you place in position number 1 goes to dash log name. Cannot bind parameter instance ID, cannot convert value system to the type integer 64. So instance ID takes an integer value, right, a numeric value 5774, but system is a string, it's a piece of text. So clearly, as you can see, cannot convert system to integer is what the error on the PowerShell screen, which means you have placed things in the wrong position. So always remember, named parameters are something, a neat approach to take when you're beginning or when you're documenting your scripts. Positional parameters are something you can actually use when you're typing at the console. For example, when you want to type something at the console and instantaneously get the output, yeah, this approach is absolutely fine. But when you are documenting your scripts, please stick to a complete syntax style. Use the complete parameters to make it visually appealing to the users or the person who is reading your code. So I hope this has cleared a lot of questions on how an optional and mandatory parameter works and how a named and positional parameter works. So if in case there are any questions, please do let me know in the comment section, and you can also join the description telegram group which is there in the description there, and also the Facebook, and you can post the questions right there so that I'll be able to answer your questions. So thank you so much for your time, and if you like the video, please do like and share and subscribe to my channel. It will encourage me to do more and more videos for you. Thank you and have a wonderful day.